He's Ali Albarigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Hello again, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Albarigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Ali, great to be with you, and nice to see you again after a couple of weeks of break, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't get to see me like when the music's playing, right? When my camera's off, you don't see me.
I saw you drumming.
I'm rocking with the music for our intro. I'm like, I could do the drum roll and everything.
Yeah, no, I saw you rocking it.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I was kind of jealous, but not totally, because I did take some time off, but you were enjoying your trip. You went to Florida, some business, some pleasure, but just really like a deserved break and downtime, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you can take a 2-week hiatus, not that I didn't do a few things, but yeah, it was quite wonderful to be able to sit on the beach.
Yeah.
And did I do some work from the beach? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just my office.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think that I'm doing a mini vacation for my anniversary, 1-year anniversary already. By the way, at the wedding that weren't invited to.
Right.
And we're going to go away to some resort upstate New York for like 3 days, but I think it's such a short time that, before you get settled in, you're out. You had at least enough time to be able to say, hey, listen, we could sit, go in the ocean, come back, read, relax. And you had enough time to really just decompress and regain, rejuvenate, remotivate, whatever you want to call it. But I think that that's important.
Yeah, we usually go there. And for the listeners that don't know, it's Siesta Key, Florida. Love that area of Florida. But we usually go there for a week. So Saturday to Saturday, we rent the condo, right?
Nice.
And last year I told my wife, I said, we got to do it 2 weeks next year. And she's like, really? I'm like, yes.
Nice.
So we did a 2-week. So the first Saturday to Saturday, we both looked at each other after 1 week was done. And we're like, do you realize that we would be leaving today? And she's like, yeah, but we're not.
Right.
Exactly. And me too. I was thinking the same thing. And so I would say probably by Thursday, maybe even towards the end of Wednesday on the first week, I actually started to kind of decompress. And then it wasn't until maybe Thursday of the following week where I was like, okay, I only have 2 more days left.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And then it started to ramp back up again. So I feel like I actually had a full week of just being relaxed.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You and I were chatting. We're like feeling like the pressure of summer, and it's a weird, like we've always talked about, like, hey, what's the slow time? And then of course, as business owners, well, what do we do to make up for the slow time? And what could we do? And we'll talk about a bunch of that stuff. Right. But I think that's draining nowadays too. It just seems more so that, people are like, hey, I'm going to take off for the summer, or they're going on these lavish vacations, or they're conserving their money for whatever reason. So it seems a little bit more prominent this year than it ever has been in the last 3 years or 4 years or 5 years with that. And I don't know if it's the economy. Is it that people are trying to save wherever they can, or is it they have, they only have limited time, so they're going to go on those big vacations and spend more time just relaxing for the summer? I mean, the summer's always been a thief in the night. It's always stole from people's training, that kind of thing. What do you think?
Well, summers have always messed me up in the head. And the reason I say that is because we always do daytime classes. And so our population will split. And so I'll come in at night and I'll look and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so barren. Like, where is everybody? And then you start freaking out. I don't know about you, but I do when I see that there's only, 5 people on the floor when there should be 15, or there's only 10 people on the floor when there should be 25, or whatever it is.
I hear you.
I start freaking out, but then I've got to dial back, look at the numbers, go, okay, they're there, or most of them are, if they didn't pause for the summer or quit or whatever.
Right.
Which, we can kind of talk about this because, this summer has been a little freaky for myself. Not necessarily for you, but it has been hard. We were down last month. So, and I told you off camera, but we were down, almost $4,000
for the
in 1
month.
month.
Right. Yeah, I'm not bragging in any way, because I just want to say that I've had an absolutely different experience when it comes to income. However, next month for August, I'm going to lose a ton of people. So then I'll be down probably in August, and then I'm hopefully going to rebuild. But I know what you're saying. This year I'm up. I'm actually up like 20,000 compared to last year income, right? So, but I'm overall, like this year compared to last year, and last year was a fairly decent year. And then
So
compared to 2019, I'm even up, which was the year before COVID kicked the crap out of us. However, here's the thing though, like I look at it, more people are inclined to say, hey, we're going to just quit, or we're not going to renew, or we want to try other things. And no matter what I try to say to them, they're not listening. They're just like,
or
hey,
they don't follow through with their agreement, right?
exactly. I've had some people where I had a lady here, just to give you an example, people are funny. I had a mom who couldn't afford a set of sparring gear. So I found a set that was brand new, and I put it together for her and sold it for half price. So I said, if you want, you could pay it off. This is 2 months ago. She hasn't paid a penny towards the sparring gear. So I sent her probably 25 text messages and emails. Can you make a few little payments? And then Spark, which is great about Spark, you could set it up so that they could pay little increments online on the invoice until it's paid off. So she hasn't responded to not one of my text messages, not one of my emails, nothing. So I charged out her credit card for the whopping $80, right? Immediately upon the charge, I get a nasty, scathing message back. Like, you should have just asked me, how dare you charge it without my permission? And you told me that I had time to pay it off. And I'm like, ma'am, it's been 2 months, number one. Number two, I sent you at least 20 something messages in 2 different formats and on the app on push notifications, and you ignored me. But it tends to be like, you didn't ignore me now. You could communicate immediately now. So I wonder just like why certain people act the way they do. And they're not the majority, they're the minority when it comes to that. Yeah, so I think it's kind of weird, but you're right though. I haven't for the last 3 nights been sleeping. Like I get up at like the other night I was up at 5 o'clock. My wife's like, you're gonna get up and shower and start working. I can't sleep, and it's so weird. Like it's not, things are good, but yeah, sometimes money's up and down, things like that. But I'm not freaking out, but in my sleep, I'm freaking out. Like those things, those things are going on in my head, even though that I'm not thinking about them, and they're there. And my subconscious brings them out in my sleep, in my dreams, and wakes me up. And now I'm staring at the ceiling, exhausted at 5 a.m. So we're always going to be bothered by that. I think just running a business, that's part of it, right?
I think to a certain degree it is, but I just wonder why we tend to always add 10 or 20% to the fear that we already have, or the things that are happening around us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And why we have those tendencies. Because, I mean, in reality, if you look at the history of human beings, everything has always done, the up and down, but there's always, in the end, there's always been progress. Right?
Okay.
I mean, if you think about it, there's always been progress in human history. It's not like we're declining it with technology. I mean, when the steam engine came, that was an improvement. When, the computer chip came, there was an improvement. So even though that there were lows, we always tended towards improvement, but yet we have the mentality when things are happening around us to, again, think 10 to 20% even more negative than what's actually happening.
Yeah. And I heard a motivational speaker, I forget who it was, just recently talk about why, it was a TED talk, I think, why we think negatively as humans. He says it's just human nature. He said it's actually programmed into our DNA, going all the way back to like the caveman times, like where we opened, we opened our eyes, we got up and we grabbed our spear and we looked outside the cave and peeked both ways to make sure no tiger was there to eat us, and then we watched where we stepped because it could have been a poisonous snake, scorpion, something else. Like we were always living in that fight or flight kind of fear, so that we're looking for the worst. Nowadays, we could be, blissfully, live a blissful life. If we wanted to do that, we could mentally do that, but because we don't have those fears. So we're tending to look at negativity. And he also said, you notice how people slow down on the highway to see a car crash, but yet they zip by a sunset and a beautiful full moon, like without even noticing that it happened. But you see a car crash, we all want to slow down and look. It's that search for like negativity, and it's an interesting dynamic. And I guess you and I are doing it a little now when it comes to our businesses and what we're going through. So what do you suggest we start thinking like or doing for both of us? You and I now will counsel each other, and let's get ourselves out of the funk into the energy of positivity and motivation.
So while we're doing this, while we're recording this, it's a Wednesday, right? So I got back from vacation on Saturday. Monday hit, and ever since Monday morning, I have been in a funk.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Monday blues, I call them. Every Monday I have them. I'm like my wife and I, Monday blues.
Well, but mine does. I don't know that I have those, but right. I just this week, and like even last night when I went to go weightlift with my friend, I was just like, man, I was out of it. I went and I did the motions. He's like, Dwayne, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing's really wrong. I've just got a lot on my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what my wife said to me today. I said, I didn't sleep again last night. I was up at 5. I did fall asleep back again at 6 and slept till like 7:20 so that I could go out with my friends. And we had a great breakfast where we just laughed hysterical. Like we were all talking about our situations with weird parent interactions or student interactions, and we're just cracking each other up. Like, and it's ninjutsu. To my left is Kempo, Kung Fu, another Kempo guy, a Japanese traditional and Korean guy, and then another Kempo guy. So I'm surrounded with Kempo, but there are all these different martial arts, different styles and systems, and we have the same exact situations. I don't want to say problems in all of our schools, whether they're, marketing or just dealing with people. It's funny.
Yeah. And I think, what I've been focusing in on is listening to some motivational things, coming up with some other ideas that I've used in the past that I'm not currently doing.
Right.
In order to, hopefully bring in some new clientele.
Yeah.
Definitely following up harder with individuals that aren't coming in, made an appointment, didn't show, or even opted in and didn't do anything.
Right.
So not that the Spark system doesn't automatically do a lot of that digitally anyways through emails and texts, but I've also added in more phone calls into those automations. So we're actually picking up the phone and calling them. So, we are doing things. I'm just trying to focus in on, okay, yes, we may be slow financially, we may be slow because people are on vacation and all those type of things, but I'm going to work really hard to keep myself, and this sounds like I'm trying to run from it, but to keep myself busy.
Right.
So I'm not focused on those things. I'm just focused on the activities that will eventually produce results, and they may not produce results right now. It might not happen until August or even September based upon, the things that we're planting now. But if I don't plant now, then I'm not going to get those things in August and September or October even.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
As a gardener, I love your analogy because I have my garden. And if it were me growing food to live, I would be starving for the last 2 months because I got a plant to grow, and then eventually the vegetables grow, and then they'll die. Like, I don't know how the people did it in the old days, how they stored and canned and bottled and prepared for the whole year. I mean, what lifestyle was that? That must have been amazingly difficult, right? Nowadays, we just go and get whatever we want. And same thing goes with martial arts and running a business and so on.
But they also weren't sitting in front of a computer and listening to other, parents complain or not being able to make somebody happy. Maybe it's a legitimate complaint, but then you feel bad because you can't make them happy or like whatever. I don't know that they weren't connected to everybody like that.
Yeah, well, I think though that, and by the way, we could lead into some of those things that we do for marketing and other stuff, but I do think like psychologically, I think that if anybody gets anything out, the psychological component of this call is very important, that we all go through the same thing.
Oh, I lost you, Allie. You dropped out. Let me text him, guys, and see if we can get him back on. Let's see here. You dropped. All right, so we'll see if he gets back on. But yeah, so I mean, really, if you think about what Allie was saying with regards to, oh, here he comes back in. Hey, Allie.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. That was, I was like in mid sentence, and all of a sudden my screen went blank. What you were saying, that you were going to say something else when I wasn't.
No. I was just going to try to take where you were going with that, with regards to that we're all in the same boat. We all experience the same things. It's just, what are we doing to solve what we can solve?
Right.
And what I really like is the phrase, marry the process and divorce the results.
Mm-hmm. Right. And isn't it? But I was saying before that, I think that we were going to talk about, like, so that we're all going through the same thing. We're all going to have our ups and downs. We all feel like you and I feel. I think that this is what I hate about our industry and the coaches. Like, everyone is always like, the big coach, life is the best all the time, 24/7. It's like all those influencers are standing out in front of a Lamborghini. And then they're like, look at my car and look at my mansion. And then the owner of the house comes out and says, get away from my car and get off my property. Like, they're all fakes and frauds. So there's a lot of people that are like that. I'm not saying everyone is, because there's some successful, massively successful school owners, like, John Gaston, or like a Chung Park, or like even Ron Sell turned his schools and his business into a massive empire. But I'm sure they and we all go through these periods of, blues, depression, frustration, anxiety. And that's why I haven't been, and it's weird. You said before, things are good. They're not bad. Like, I'm waking up. My wife said to me, like, what's bothering you? I said, I have to be honest, I don't really know. Like, there's not like things are bad. Like, all of a sudden I got bad news, or, the school is crashing. Everything is going well. Like, so my brain always looks for that negativity. Like, I guess I'm always in that defensive, like, what if, and it's hard to run a business that way, because it's debilitating in a way.
Well, it is. And again, you go back to asking the question, why? Number one, why do we do this? And I think the school owners, or just even entrepreneurs, right, in general, because we all do this, no matter what industry you're in, you have these feelings and these emotions and actual things that are really happening, and things that you feel are happening that aren't really happening.
Yeah.
But I would say the most successful ones, not only just, they do feel them, but they bounce back a lot quicker. They don't dwell on them, or if they, look at them, they find out what's going on, they solve the problem, and they move forward. And so they're not having a very, very long pity party at all. So I think the most successful ones just bounce back a lot faster.
Absolutely. So let's give some people some nuts and bolts of, like, I went back in my archives, right? And I'm pulling out, I'm going like, okay, like, what are like the, some business, advice that we could possibly give for promotions and things like that. So I have an article that I wrote for Member Solutions many years ago, as when I was their coach, like the 10 old school items to build your school. Everyone right now is doing social media, Facebook posts, posting, Google AdWords, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. But there are so many other things that I think people could be doing, and we tend to not do them, right? So maybe I'm doing some of these as well. After reading my own article, I reminded myself of what I used to do. So the first thing was to do a complete inventory, like an audit of your student count, knowing to the penny what your billing is, and make sure that all your clients' information is up to date. Many people change their emails, their cell phone numbers, so we may believe that we're communicating when in very essence we're not. And on Spark, sometimes if the email bounces more than once, it'll opt it out. So we there's a report that we could go in and see opted out emails, and then update and opt them back in, because it's not them that's doing it. It might be just the bounce rate on whatever. I said, make sure, that you talk to all of the people you see in person. And sometimes people don't even realize that they're no longer getting your communication. They might think it's us that's not communicating. So we have to remind them. And by the way, sometimes sending a card And we miss you note or your motivational card, those old school type of things. We started doing them again. I don't think you ever stopped. But we want to make sure that we communicate with those people, old school. Are you still doing your cards? They go out automatically and so on?
Well, the good job cards at the end of the night, the instructors are required to do 2 each night, and then we've got a sheet of the whole population. And so everybody, the theory is, it doesn't always happen, but mostly it does. Within each quarter, everybody is getting 1 card every single quarter.
That's great. And by the way, when we started resending those cards out again, the Renchi Ryan, my guy, does them. People start immediately respond like, "Thank you for that card." Like it's a big deal. It came in the mail. They hung it on their refrigerator. They handed it to their kid. Look what Renchi said. That kind of thing. So anyway, I think doing that inventory and just making sure that people are out there listening still, because sometimes I wonder, like, I'm like, I sent 10 emails to you. Why didn't you respond? I never got one. Like sometimes parents are like, look, they'll show me even on the text messages. Look, this is your text thread. I haven't received one since October. Like, why is that? Like maybe, by the way, their software, maybe like their phone company, T-Mobile or ATT, they might blacklist your number as spam. And then you have to make sure that and I don't even myself know how to whitelist somebody's number, but you could do it on a setting on your phone.
Well, I know that I've had that happen, and then I'll give them my number and say, hey, do me a favor, text me.
Right.
And then they'll text me, and then I'll text them back, and then it's like fixed.
Wow. Okay. So that it has to be initiated by them.
Well, at least in these instances, it has worked.
Right. So inventorying and knowing that you're communicating with your people, sometimes we take for granted that that's what's going on. And we think like, hey, they're just not talking to us. They don't know. Or maybe we're just not on their radar. So they get so many communications that they shut us down and they stop listening, what we call white noise, and they don't hear us anymore.
Well, with communication too, don't you think that because automation has gotten so good that we have really lost the team or the family atmosphere?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at times, yes.
I remember doing a physical newsletter every single month. We would make sure that every single student got one of those. We would hand them out as we're doing that. We're saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, how's things going?
Yeah.
Or like there was a lot of communication that happened at those times that I don't feel is happening anymore.
You know what, though? I don't even know if it's the communication, the vessel, or the words that are being said. I'll give you an example. I had a mom that her kid trained with me when he was like 10. He's 29 now, and he's moving to Utah. So the mom came in with all his equipment. She goes, it's been sitting in his closet. They're small. It's when he was a little kid. And, he was this shy, overweight kid. And she showed me pictures. He's all grown up and he's in good shape and looks good. And she then, after hands it all into us, she turns to my clientele in the lobby, all my parents that are sitting, and she goes, everybody, you're in such good hands. She called me Renchi because that was my title back when he trained. Renchi Alley, he really changed my kid's life. And then she said, have a good day, everyone. And one person said, bye. Like one person out of like 12 lifted their head from their phone, got out of their own little world, and were focused on. And that woman, I should have videotaped it because it would have been a great testimonial to put on Instagram because people would have watched it then. Right. But it was amazing that how many people were just totally disconnected. And I have people all the time, Mr. Smith, what? Like he's like, he doesn't hear me for the first 3 times. He's so in his own little days of whatever he's doing. So communication is difficult these days.
Right. He's on his phone.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. So, all right. Number 2, I had make sure that all your active students are engaged into your social media. I took this home the other day. Check this out. I was in my mom's doctor's office. No, it was my eye doctor. And they had this flyer on it's backwards. We want you to hear from, we want to hear from you. And then on the back, it talks about all their forms of social media where you could and how to get on their social media. So I used to have a card like that years ago that said, hey, we have a website. People, it was back then, it was look at www. Like that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that people, and by the way, with Spark, again, one of our sponsors, the app is like the best. Like I train people to be on that app. That's
Hey, do me a favor. Do us a favor.
yeah.
Take a picture
Okay.
of that, like the front side and the back side.
Right.
Send it to me. But then also, when this is over, or even now, put it in this post
Okay.
so people can see it. And
Yeah.
here's my idea. So you gave me an idea. Here's what I'm going to do, because I am going to automate this.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to take that, I'm going to make a card in my card system, and then I'm going to just decide where I want to send that card out in the system. So, maybe it's yellow belt or something like that. So right after their yellow belt test, send that out type thing. So
Yeah. So yeah, I will. And like I want, again, we have a few avenues. And by the way, just think about, and I don't want to get political, but think about political advertisement. Or like let's say when whoever's running for president or governor, the millions upon millions of dollars in radio, TV, print, visits, newscasts, reports, that go on to be able to penetrate through our skull, right? Like, and so the thing is, we're like hoping that our people, because they love what we do, is engaged in our stuff as they would be in other things, but we sometimes don't market those things. Like, so if we want to communicate, like for me, I drive everyone to the app, right? So that's how they book their classes, sign up for events, pay for a summer camp. All of that is through my app. So, hey, if you want to add, and all the information, how to tie your belt, all these things is right on the app. So that's where they're going if they need something, right? So that's what I found one hub that always works, right? Like sometimes I post on Facebook, it'll say reach 20 people. Like, why did it only reach 20 people? Like, that's their algorithm, and more people like it post, it'll show more people. It's not like we post it on the wall. Everyone who passes it sees it or could see it, but they don't. Maybe some of them don't notice it, that kind of thing. So we got to back to communicating and being able to getting that done. So we should definitely let our clients know, like through a card like that, let them know that, they can access stuff on our website, on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our app, so that we're fully communicating with the most important clientele, which is our active student count. Make sense? You have any thoughts on other things to do, or?
Well, and I told you about this before. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but this was a brainchild of my head instructor at the studio, Mr. Bean. And so we created newsletters. We've got a white belt newsletter. It's a digital newsletter. So once they become an official white belt, official student, they get that newsletter.
Great.
And I'm just pulling it up right now, but that email, obviously there's a welcome to the family, so it obviously welcomes them, gives like an overview of, our mission statement, what we're trying to accomplish, those type of things. Next one is addressing your instructors. So there's a little article on addressing your instructors and why that's important to do it the correct way and how to do it. And then we have the next one is training expectations. So like just real quickly, we have, the expectations of the student is, they got to know how to tie their belt. If you can't make it to class, that they have to message us. Sign in. They have to sign in for every single class. Make it at least 2 classes per week. If you miss a class, make a private lesson for any classes that are missed.
Right.
Go up to class on time, ready to learn. Be in full uniform. Download our app, and then also subscribe to our Google Calendar to get all the important dates added to your phone or added to your calendar automatically. And so, of course, with the app, we've got the links to download it in the email, and then obviously our Google Calendar as well. And then what to look for in our program. So we want them to start looking for specific things out of our program. So we talk about that we've got mat chats that are character building skills, at the end of each class. And I put in there, we got pro tip number 1, use these topics, these mat chats, to discuss these topics with your family. Pro tip number 2, help us by rewarding approximate success. So in the beginning stages of training, it's more important that we focus on, the victories, no matter how small they may be. And then pro tip number 3 is take the long view approach. So, with training, we take the long view approach. You know, we always have time to correct anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be addressed at the moment, but we've got the long-term approach. And then caring for your uniform, you know, we teach them how to care for their uniform, how to wash it, don't bleach it, don't wash your belt. I mean, those type of things. And then Mr. Bean has a small little article on here called Optimism. And then that's it. And then ways to stay connected. It's got all of our social media information on there. And so
I have a great idea that you just gave me that you could probably use is we should do a virtual information scavenger hunt. So you put a code, find the code XXYZ on any one of our posts on the app or on our website and find that and receive $100 for the first person. Like,
oh, wow. Okay.
And get them to like have to look through, and then it'll probably get them to scour through, but say, oh, I didn't realize they had a thing, how to tie your belt and how to do this and how to do that. And this is on the app and that kind of thing. It gets them to really read through it all because the reward is there. So like you make that like scavenger hunt where they're really, really seeing it.
Okay. Yeah, that's an idea.
Right. I thought of that when you were talking. I'm like, how do we get them to go through all that stuff? Like maybe we could do something that makes it fun and rewards them.
Yeah. The only thing I see a potential problem is they're going through and looking for those, but they're not really looking at the information.
Yeah, but they have to go into it, right? So even if they go, like the first one says how to tie your belt, the second one is how to clean your uniform, like whatever your info is on your website, on your homepage, whatever, you could do stuff like that. And even if they go through it, they at least now they're aware, like, oh my God, I didn't even know this information existed, you know, that kind of thing. So again, and that's funny, like, because that's kind of like what my next one was like, to make sure that you're communicating. We talked about all the various areas where we can communicate, but we might want to also, and you and I have chatted about this way back when on one of our podcasts too, is how do people want you to communicate? Like, for example, if I wanted to communicate with my 85-year-old mom, it's only calling her on the phone. She doesn't know how to text. She doesn't know how to read a text. She doesn't know how to email. So like everyone has their own preference. Like some people go, I don't go on Facebook. I have more people so than ever are like, I'm not even on Facebook anymore.
Right.
Right. So we got to make sure that we know we might be putting all our posts on Facebook and then they might not even be seeing it just because of the algorithm, but maybe they want a phone call. And I think phone calls, as tedious as they are, my virtual assistant does it from her home. She gets in touch with people that I've never been able to get in touch with via text or email. So I think that that's very important, is to find out how they want to communicate. Like how do they prefer, whether it be a certain avenue, like even if people are showing up to class because they didn't see your clothes, maybe you have a small list of 10 people that you need to call and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, just a reminder, we're closed on this Monday, like that above and beyond customer service for them as well.
Right. And then just real quickly, we've got all of these emails, these newsletters created. We've got one for white belt, but then of course every belt up to black belt is a 3-month cycle, right? So we've got 3 months worth in each belt level. Again, with those type of topics, what to look for in your training, you know, how to, like, just different tips, right? And things to be focusing on all the way up through black belt. So, I just wanted to throw that out there because we were still talking about communication.
No, that's awesome. I love the news. I've been doing, I think I told you this last week off air or maybe even on air, that I've been doing weekly emails. And I started off like for the first 2 weeks doing an email every day. Now I'm doing them every other day. And I had a dad come in and a tryout class with his kid that hadn't been around for years, that came out because they read my email. They're like, wow, you know, I think maybe this might be fun. Let me get back into it. So like, you know, and that goes back to marketing. Like how are you marketing your school? I mean, we need to have every stone unturned. We got to make sure that we're looking for every avenue. We even though that we have digital, we should probably still be doing a flyer. I have a client that is looking for an employee and he can't get anybody from the local, like, you know, ads for job ads, like, you know, Guru and things like Indeed and all that other stuff. So I said, what's stopping you from printing out a flyer? and posting it in all the local supermarkets, local stores, local delicatessens, just going around asking them. I used to do it when I was promoting my school. And by the way, you can promote your school this way too. I would bring my own Scotch tape and my flyer. I said, could I hang this in your window? And people would be like, yeah, go hang it. Like they didn't care. And that's how I got my first student, by the way, from my first grand opening special. And I'm still friends with that person to this day. They came from a flyer hanging in a door at a stationery store about an event that I was doing as a grand opening. So you know what why are we stopping those things? I know because you and I don't want to do it ourselves, but
We're lazy.
Can we? Yeah. And I'm admitting to it. I don't want to do it. I want to be lazy. So can we hire someone, a kid, a local college kid or teenager and say, hey, you want to make $20? Can you go hand these out? I want you to do at least 50 stores or whatever the case may be.
You're going to have to find a really good college kid because, or even high school, because none of these people want to work anymore.
I know that is tough, but there are some out there that are really they're motivated. I have a few good younger guys that, but you're right though. The majority, why would I do that for $20? Or I could, my mom will just give me the money and I'll, whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and I can continue to play my video games.
Right. Exactly. So that's one thing, is going out and going back to the paper, maybe some VIP passes, going back to your referral programs, rejuvenating your buddy weeks, making sure you're out, letting the community know that you're there, hard copy, paper, flyers in stores, on the counters, and of course, do not stop your digital media, because it'll all reinforce one another, by the way. If they saw your ad and then they saw your flyer, or they saw your flyer, then saw your ad, it's that FOMA, front of mind awareness kind of stuff. And I've been trying to do more and more of that hard copy type marketing to try to get my energy back and I want to be the most famous person in my town or in my towns around me.
Yep.
Right. So also too, another thing, Dwayne, is promoting sales. When you and I are fortunate to be able to look at our retail sales on Spark in a report. And if we notice our sales are low, why not do a sale? Blow out your t-shirts, blow out items. We were talking about back to school marketing, right? We should be already selling backpacks, sling bags, things that pertain to back to school. We should be promoting a second uniform, extra t-shirts, whatever inventory that's sitting, blow it out. I just have a friend of mine who's part of a program that I had once done and called the Martial Art Accelerator, or this Martial Arts School Accelerator. And he buys a lot of my gear that I have an overage of. So he just ordered 25 comic cases, Tomfit cases. I have all this inventory sitting in my back showroom. It's literally $10 bills stacked up in a bin, $20, so he's yeah, send me 30 of these or whatever it is. So I'm able to blow those items out. And when I used to deal with Chris Angel's, my family who used to train with me, JD, my student, he would help Chris with his stores. And he said, you have to move your money. If your money's just sitting on a shelf, if it's just sitting on a rack and it's doing nothing, you blow it out. He says that cost of money is zero to you right now. You have a lot of my clients would say I'm not going to blow out those those shirts cost me $10. I'm not going to. Yeah, but if you're not selling them, they're just sitting there. There's $10 bills on neat little hangers all around and no one's taking them.
Yeah, and you could at least recoup that money.
Yeah, and maybe put it into a new item, something fresh, or take that money and pay a bill, or put it into more marketing, or whatever may happen, something like that, right? So that's just another back to school marketing idea that we should be pushing. Whatever you're selling for the back to school push, you should be thinking about that right now.
Yeah, so backpacks are one. I know we do long sleeve t-shirts.
Right. Yeah,
because the colder weather will start to come, and we get orders on those too. So just FYI.
And I think too that we have to start thinking of like my daughter is a buyer. Well, not really a buyer, but she works for Macy's on all the products. So she's the step before. Well, maybe the buyer buys it. Now my daughter has to look at the products, right? So she's like, what are the lines? And she's involved in what's Macy going to carry next year? What are the trends? What are the shirts? She works with designers and people like that to see what the actual stuff is that they're going to sell. So they're making the trends. They're not necessarily following the trends because they're the big boys, right? So that they'll do the fashion shows to show the new line of what's going to come out. And all the local boutiques will buy those fashions because this company says it's good. Couture, whatever, I don't know any of the names, but so like, why are we not like looking like, okay, right now we should have a summer special for retail. We should be selling certain items. We should do a push, make it exciting. Then we have a back to school, then we have a winter or fall. And then we, like, I don't know, windbreakers or, light sleeve shirt, long sleeve mock turtlenecks for the fall. Like we should start thinking ahead, like just jot down in your mind, if you're listening to this, like what could you sell over the next 6 or 8 months? What could you have available? Because dude, I know how you feel. And sometimes with me, myself too, I'm like thinking like, oh man, I'm so tired. Like it's more work. Just, like, I just wanted to work without all this work. I want it to be like, like you see, sometimes I get pissed off. Like I'm jealous a little, like I'll see a brand new school open up and they'll be like, in the first 2 months, I signed up 180 people, like that kind of thing going like either one, your area was totally prime or you're like the guru of signups, like, but for me, it's never, ever in, back in the 90s, maybe, but nowadays it's never easy. Like you 10 come in brand new, 7 go out, 5 go out, like you're always this vicious cycle and you have to work to stay afloat and continually grow. I wish it was easy, but it's just not that type of business. It's something that's very, something that you really, unless you had, and I don't even like if you had an MMA star in your area that moved in and started teaching at your school. I remember Randy Couture and a few other famous MMA fighters opened up a gym in my area about 4, 5, 6 years ago, and it went out of business. So it's not name recognition. It's really digging in and becoming that person.
Well, I mean, you have to know how to market. You have to know how to, I'm not saying those people don't know how to treat people right, but you also have to treat people right. There's different things too. So
yeah. Can I give you another idea?
Please.
I hate the fact though that I'm talking so much. Like I get sick of hearing, and then you say to me when I get you off air, you're like, "Yeah, you just dominated the conversation."
I never do that.
You're a big mouth. I'm sure you're thinking it too.
No. I'd be like I've said before. I'm appreciative that we do this together because I would not have enough to say. And what I mean by that is my perspective is only limited,
right?
And you have way more stories than I do. You have a much broader background. When I present things, I'm pretty cut and dry. Like yeah. I'm down the way, this, do this. All right. See you later. Mm-hmm. And you have stories and other things that you marry in that makes it.
I have a few of my wife's relatives that can't stand me because they're like, there he goes again with another one of his stories. Like they think I'm bragging, but the way I remember things is through story. And the way I'm able to start conversation is, oh, Dwayne, when that happened to me back in yada, yada, yada. Like I watched a movie that I love so much, which was with Brandon Fraser. And I think it was called Wordsmith, or I forget the name of the movie, but he was a guy that could tell a story. And as he would tell it, it would come to life. And, so he had to be careful about what he talked about because it was bad would come, good would come. So I've always learned to tell stories through teaching. But what's one thing and I was just talking to a client of mine as well, is that we need to train our staff to the point. And I know you have a great team. I have a great 2 or 3 members that teach. And then I have my virtual assistant seems to be working out great. But I think that sometimes we neglect to train our staff. So for example, one of my clients has been out sick for 2 weeks. He's a new school owner. He bought the school and he had like his staff running the show, which is great. They're doing a good job. But I'm like, what about all the trials that have come in? How did you? Well, I'm sure he just let him in the class and he taught him. And then, I'll eventually get back to them, like that kind of thing. And I'm like, you have these leads that are so hot, ready for your direction. And if you're not there to do it, you better be sure to know that you have a staff member that could take them through the dojo tour, value stack your stuff that you're giving to them, and really take the tours becomes your sales process and it's your value stack. In fact, I wrote an article the other day about that I want to release maybe on our page. And it was called Value Stacking, but like for the dojo tour. So like when I'm taking someone brand new and I go, hey, here's our lobby. Okay, this is our bathroom. Okay, here's our train. Like I could go, this is our lobby. This is where the parents sit. They congregate. You get to meet all these great parents. You develop a friendship. You get to watch on the monitor. We have Wi-Fi, and I make sure that there's way more to than we have a lobby.
Yeah. And you're going to sit here and watch your kid.
Yeah. Here's the bathroom. Okay, not much to talk about it. Well, we clean those bathrooms at least, 3 times a day, that kind of thing. And, kids, right? And then we move on. This is our sitting area. Like we don't allow the kids to sit for too long because we don't want any funny business. We don't allow adults to come in here because we don't want adults to mix with the kids so that we know that they're safe. And then I segue into, by the way, my dad was a retired cop and blah, 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 blah. Like that tour is very, very important. So you need to make sure your staff is totally on point, and they know, like every one of the team, whether they're an assistant instructor or they're a helper to the assistant instructor, they have to know that they're why. Like, why are they there? It's not just to help. Like they have to understand the value is to make sure people feel good. The new people feel comfortable. Like I always get that from people who've tried class and I'm not there, and I'll ask them and they'll say, wow, your team is amazing. They made my son, who's always shy and doesn't like anything, have a good time. Right. And then I know that my team is doing their job. So how do we train our staff, and how do we train them to the point that they're on point to grow our school? Are they also out promoting, talking, handing out flyers and VIP passes or whatever? Like they all have to be an integral part of your growth. They got to want it as much as you. Because I tell parents, a mom said to me the other day, we're going to Iran for 2 months. Do we have to pay? I said, you're going to pay for those 2 months. And here's a funny situation, but and then we give it back to you at the end, right? So you'll get a credit, and then you get 2 months for free. I said, imagine if everyone canceled their payments for the month for the summer. Where would we be? We'd be out of business. And she kind of laughed and she said, okay, no worry. Anyway, they're away, and their credit card's not going through, and they won't respond to me. So like they yesed me to death, but they didn't really believe in what I was saying, so they did what they wanted. But we'll deal with that when they get back. But we have to train our staff, making sure that they're following all of our school's rules, our methodology, our brand, the main theme of our school. Because without it, we're just a bunch of words, right? We're not really there, and that's important. And by the way, building a brand, you're great at this as well. You're TriStar Martial Arts. You're a Christian martial arts school. Your brand is very definitive.
Yeah, I mean, basically, and we've done different stuff. I think we've done some podcasts on brands as well. So people could go back on the School Learn Talk website and look that up. Just go to schoollearntalk.com and just type in brand or branding. And there's got to be at least one, if not multiple ones that we've done.
Yeah, well, the brand is kind of
even have didn't we have a report that we gave out one time too on branding? I thought we did.
We've done so many shows, it's hard to remember nowadays, right?
Yeah, that might be, you might even be able to find that one. You're on there too, is that branding one.
Yeah, and I think honestly the brand is something that people don't understand, and I think that they think their brand is their system, their style. But the brand is what you represent. Like I think your brand is that you're a very Christian based martial arts school, but not only Christians can train. You have Muslims and Sikh and all different people, Buddhists and all that training with you. So what is that? If you're a Christian martial arts school and they're not Christian, what's the benefit? But I think honestly, from what I know about you, the benefit is that your morals and your ethics and integrity are Christian based, but they're just good methods, right? And good in morals. So even someone who doesn't follow that religion feels safe in your school. And, of course your style is great. The art that you teach and everything that you give your students. So that's the brand. Sometimes people don't know. They think it's a system.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, we've intermixed 4 different arts into our school, so my brand could never be my style because I don't have a style. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So
well, you do. It's your 4 different styles.
Yeah.
TriStar Martial Arts, right?
Yeah, but I've even had somebody say to me before, well, you should, come up with a name for your style.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, nah, I don't know about that because it's not my style. It's what I've taken as a conglomerate. I used to call it a mutt. Somebody said, you probably shouldn't call it a mutt. I said, okay, so it's eclectic.
Yeah.
But,
Well, mine is 21st century ninjutsu. So that's because I do classical ninjutsu, some modern day ninjutsu, some other systems. So I kind of coined the phrase 21st century ninjutsu. But so your TriStar martial arts is the system. That's your curriculum. That's your style. In my thoughts of that. So
No, I would agree. Yeah,
yes,
and in the beginning, it was creating today and tomorrow's leaders by teaching way more than kicking and punching.
I love it. That's great.
Now we have defined it as leadership training from day one.
Nice. It's like our friend Kenny Bigby. He like took his regular jujitsu Muay Thai school, and I coached him for years. You coached him for years, and now he has this brand that is like Be Elite, and he's a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, and now he's all over the world. I watch him and follow him. Like, wow, he just spoke at a Fortune 500 company. He's in Brazil teaching their military police and their police officers, and his whole entire Be Elite concept is like something that that's the brand. Like you want to be amazing, you train with Kenny, that kind of thing. I mean,
even down to the verbiage that he uses at the school, because it's not like most of us, we have stripe tests or
right,
exams or whatever, a belt test or whatever. I mean, it's an elite assessment.
right. Amazing.
I mean, just the word we worked on his branding, and
Yeah.
that elite assessment is just a step above. It sounds like,
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to do a stripe test today. No,
Right.
we're doing an elite assessment.
I love it. I mean, and by the way, coming from being a SEAL, like those guys are the elite of the elite, right? Like they're the best of the best, right? So like it's coming from him. This type of thing that's the brand that I'm talking about. So everyone should look into that. The last thing, and we're running out of time, is I think that the old saying, goals we set are goals we get, right? Are you setting goals on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Or if not, you should be. And if you want to learn more about it, read that book, First Things First by Stephen Covey. And there's a multitude of books that are out there about different goal setting type things. But if we're not looking and saying, what are we going to retail in the fall now? Or what are we going to do for back to school special now? Like what items are we going to sell for retail for back to school special now and the future? And then in the winter, then we're going to always be playing catch up. We're going to be behind the 8 ball. We want to jump out in front and be prepared so that when we're ready, we just hit the launch button and boom, there it is, right? It's not like, what are we going to do last minute? And I think that martial arts school owners many times are a creature of last minute behavior. And I try to set my marketing campaigns out way ahead of time. I'm thinking about my retail pushes, and all that other stuff. I could be better at it. It's easy to talk. Sometimes it's harder to do. But I think, though, that at least I have some idea. Like I'm already promoting backpacks. Like they're moved up on the wall and they're pretty prominent, I haven't made the sign yet. My copy machine just got repaired yesterday, but it's going to say like back to school, items, so people could start thinking about it. At least, so if they're looking for a backpack, why go to Target or wherever? Like buy the Dojo one, like that kind of.
Do you make your own, or what do you do?
Oh yeah. We have our own branded backpacks with our logo on it, our name on it, printed on it. We have the Little Warriors, Eagle, Bear, and Wolf, the Mighty Warriors, Owl, Fox, and Cheetah, and it says Little Warrior, Mighty Warrior. We have a regular LI Ninjutsu one. We have sling bags. They're like a square bag that you just pull over your shoulder. We have a whole bunch of different things. That is available for people for that.
Now, do you, because I know you have retail and stuff that you sell.
Yeah.
And I mean, you actually help other school owners sell retail. Is that something that school owners could get from you too?
I would have jumped on that in a second, Dwayne, and 5 years ago and said, yeah, buy it from me. And then I would have subbed it out and got it for people and helped them with that. But I just, my energy is low for stuff like that now. So I'm like focused on my school and my school only. Yeah. However, I would recommend, Asian World of Martial Arts does custom silk screening and printing. Eastern Martial Arts on Long Island, which is my friend Gary. He also does silk screening, customizing. ProWin, PROWIN, martial arts supplies out of New Jersey. Century, they all do these custom silk screened items. So, and you don't have to buy mass quantities. You could buy 3 or 4 of them, which won't cost you much, and put them on display. Or here's one last idea: is get a picture of it. and put it on a flyer and then have a clipboard and take orders ahead of time. Or in our case, we would put it on a checkout page and people would buy it. And then we would know who we have and what colors and what they wanted. And then we'd order the items. So it's never going to be money invested. It's money came in and we made the profit and then we bought the item. So we're not going to have inventory sitting.
Yeah, I almost always do pre-orders.
Yeah,
so.
you did that once with T-shirts and sold over like 100 something shirts or something. I remember back in the day on something you did this massive order and it was like you sold out almost. I forget what that was for.
Yeah, it was probably more like 250 shirts or something like that.
Yeah, crazy, right? Like, so yeah, then that, and by the way, you didn't have to go, okay, I think I'll sell 250. Let me invest $800. Now you only sold 100 and you have 150 now that you got to waste. So that it helps you that way by and I used to sell from the clipboard. Like we would, hey guys, I have a clipboard and we're doing jacket orders for the fall. I'm going to hand it around if anyone wants it. And there's the prices at the top. And then you had to choose the size and you'd hand it to the first person. I said, if you don't want it, just hand it off to someone else. And they're like, almost like a little bit of peer pressure. One person puts their name on, then the other person hands to, and they're like, oh, could I afford, like that kind of thing. I think that those are great ways to sell without having to invest. Right. And last but not least, I want to talk about people just real quickly revising their referral program, making sure that you have a referral program that's active and engaged and you're using it. You're calling people saying, hey, Dwayne, can you give me at least one referral for a website for martial arts school or business? I don't know, Ali, I'm not really sure of anyone right now. All right. How about when we chat next week, you have just one person that might be looking for a website, or a student. One person, like we got to be a little bit more engaged, more preemptive. And, rather than always waiting for it to happen, we have to go out and engage it. And this is where we set out our goals we set or goals we get kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I posted this today. So it goes along with what you just said. But, if you don't separate yourself from your distractions, then your distractions will separate you from your goal.
I saw that.
And so what I liked about that was the fact that sometimes and this is for a different call, but sometimes we will get busy doing busy things to make ourselves feel good rather than the things that, really we should be doing in order to achieve. So.
Yeah, and I love stealing your posts and I don't steal them. I swipe them and deploy them in my. Yeah, so I mean, that's important because you have a lot of really great information either on your martial arts posts or on your health coaching posts. So yeah, you're doing great with that. I mean, your health coaching. Do you ever track how much weight everyone has lost?
Yeah, I mean, they do. We have them track it. You
should do it in total. Like,
oh gosh,
you know what I mean? And go like, hey, your 30 clients have lost 100 pounds each. That's, 3,000 pounds now. You're up to 3,000 pounds. Imagine what that would look like in a hill of fat.
Oh, if I had started that from the beginning, that would have been interesting.
Wouldn't that be great? I mean, that's just pretty awesome. Keep a track of that. That's something motivational. I think that I look at those pictures sometimes of like, and I'm not being, I'm trying to think of the word superficial. And, like I see a girl who is like, maybe like 160, 70, 80 pounds. And then I see another picture. I'm like, it's two different women. Like, it's like same thing with guys. They went from having this big, huge beer belly to have a 6-pack abs. And I'm like, man, Dwayne's making the world hotter one person at a time. That's awesome.
Yeah, I stole that from you. I just not put it into print.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're doing good with that. That's great. So I hope people got something out of this call. I hope that they learned something from it, and I hope they enjoyed it. What do you think? Any last closing thoughts?
I was just going to say, look, marry the process, divorce the results. We all get into our head, especially this time of year, and it's just really, really important, I think, for all of us to get into working the process. And whatever that process is, obviously, with regards to the quote that I just said, we need to work on the processes that are going to get us to our goal, not the lesser, the lesser goals, but the main goals. Mm-hmm. So just marry the process, divorce the results, and just keep moving forward. Because, like I said in the beginning of this call, the trend for the human population is we're always trending towards improvement.
Right.
And I'm excluding some areas. Obviously, I would say morality wise, I think we're not trending towards improvement
Oh, no.
right now.
No.
But in totality, in our lives have always been improving ever since we've been born. Things have gotten easier, even though they seem harder at times. So just realize that statistics are in your favor, but we've got to work. Just got to do it. And I'm not just talking to y'all. I'm talking to myself too.
Yeah, and by the way, statistics are in your favor if you believe it. Like, if you want to look at negative crap all day long, you'll think the world is the worst place possible. So you got to sometimes, like you said, divorce yourself from that mindset, purge yourself from the negativity. And like I said, start thinking about all the things that you could do if you want to do it, if you want to put the energy forward. Don't make excuses. The past doesn't equal the present. You got to make sure that you're working hard today.
Right. And then I remember when I bought my partners out and I was freaking out. And Joe Gallia, it was PPS at the time, and him and I chatted, and he was very instrumental in giving me a better outlook, if you will. And so
that's cool.
From there on out, anytime anybody asked me, "Hey, Dwayne, how's things going? Or how's business?"
Right.
And business could suck. And I would say, "Oh man, business is booming."
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely it, man. You got to be positive.
Yep.
Awesome, dude. Very cool. We'll chat next week again. I hope everyone had a good time, and we'll play our outro. Please listen to the sponsors and check out our sponsors and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go to lunch with our youngest. It's his 20th birthday today.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing. Where does the time go?
Very quickly, as you know.
Yeah, that's the truth. All right, bud. Have a great day. Sayonara, everybody. Take care.
All right. Bye, sir.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream for their school.